Hi everyone, it's Genevieve from Kangaroo Time. Thank you so much for watching the recording of our webinar right now. At Kangaroo Time, we create software for childcare centers. We're an all-in-one solution that helps centers grow their business, connect with their families, and effectively manage their staff members. Our software will help you automate your entire business, including payments, billing, check-in and check-out for children, keeping track of staff hours. We also do classroom automation, and this gives your teacher prompts while they're in the classroom to update parents on feedings, diaper changes, and developmental milestones. And it really hardwires the parents into the early education experience, and they get a beautiful feed of content right on their smartphones. So if you're looking for billing and a payment solution, a parent app, or staff scheduling, contact Kangaroo Time today. Thanks so much and enjoy the webinar.
Hey everybody, hello. Good to see you all. Where's everybody coming in from? All right, we'll get started here in about 90 seconds. We'll let everybody kind of settle in. Yeah, so it is midweek. It's hump day, guys. All right, Key West, good to have you. So in Long Beach, California, it is 65 degrees and June gloom. It has stretched into July for sure. All right, well, I'm gonna get started with a little bit of housekeeping. So welcome everybody. My name is Scott Wayman. I'm the founder and CEO at Kangaroo Time. I want to thank you all so much for joining our webinar here with Kathy Ligon from HINGE Early Education Brokers. She's the CEO and founder there. So as we get started, many of you have been on many of these webinars. I think we're in the 30 range. We've done something like 30 of these. Please, if you have not, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So subscribe, hit the notifications. You will get alerted anytime there's new content added here. And the content's been pretty prolific, right? So there's been managing mindsets, how to make a crisis something you learn from Vernon. Lauren Small's financial forecasting was phenomenal. There's so much, an embarrassment of wealth here. And the fact that we only have 289 subscribers, that's insane. That's insane. So please subscribe. Also, when we started this in mid-March, we didn't have a blog. We didn't have really any kind of like content landing page. So for those of you that have not subscribed to our blog, our top of the funnel team, so Genevieve, Marissa, the entire team, they're doing nothing but posting content here. And there's some good stuff coming up. So other than the live webinar and video content, please subscribe to the blog. And then another place, and I know, Kathy and I were just talking, webinars, as you get your business back, they may not be terribly pragmatic, but joining a Facebook group like KT Childcare Connect, and Kathy, I'll have you also, if you have any resources in Facebook, from the HINGE Brokers group, please, I've gotten so much from the content that your team puts out, but please join KT Childcare Connect if you have not already. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Please just have as many of you join, because the conversations, the organic conversations we have here have been amazing. So dating back to PPP loans, the burn down tool that we put out, and again, if you haven't seen that, please jump into this Facebook group and download it. Anyway, my tidbit for today, before I introduce Kathy, I was just thinking about it. One of the themes for our team has been mental health. And I think for all of you, performance and having your team optimize, and we're going to talk a bit about business optimization with Kathy, is so key. But a big part of that being effective and maximizing yourself is the mental health piece. And I know so many of us have been thinking about quantified self and mindfulness and meditation and gratitude and those things we do. I would suggest a book. I'm a dog lover. Many of you may not be, but there's a book out. It's called Dog is Love. There's this interesting genetic quality that dogs have. And they have this enormous capacity to fall in love with whatever they're exposed to. And I just know that recently those boosts of serotonin, those great moments of mental health for me have all come from that capacity to love other people. And I thought about this as Kathy jumped on, and her following and how I've seen her interact with her team, and the love that I see there, the many of you that have built your businesses on top of love. Read the excerpts from this book. It'll bring tears to your eyes. And then start thinking in the mode of giving yourself those boosts of good hormones and serotonins and those moments of love and connection. And don't miss out on those. I know each of you have got into this crazy world, this wonderful business, this great opportunity to watch bodies, souls, and minds grow in front of your very eyes for this reason. But that was kind of my mental health guru suggestion of the day. But let's get started. I wanted to introduce Kathy Ligon. Again, she has the most impressive seminar/conference there is in the business, in my opinion. I was there in late January, or it was in February. It was revolutionary for me as a founder at Kangaroo Time, because it helped me understand what you all go through throughout the continuum of the business. And I think as a business owner, if you go to Kathy's conference, you'll really understand what the key metrics are that you should really be concerned with, the health of your business, what the real estate is doing for you inside your business, how to manage your staff. And it was also very inspiring. I mean, she had an award-winning, best-selling author there who had authored the book Essentialism. It was just an amazing couple of days, a real reset for me. And I wasn't even a childcare business owner there. I was just a guy that showed up, had a lot of connections to make. But it was an awesome show. So I'm proud to present Kathy. Kathy has over 30 years of experience in educational operations. In 2003, she started her own early education brokerage called HINGE Brokers, which provides support for private early education sector by developing price analysis, negotiating strategies, and matching buyers with sellers. HINGE Brokers is the nation's leading expert in private early education business and real estate sales. So today, Kathy will focus on how childcare center owners can recoup financial losses and identify new revenue streams. Kathy, I'm going to unshare, and with much love in my heart, so glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for those wonderful, kind words. I keep telling you, and I certainly want to say it to your guests here, that you and your team have done so much in the last couple of months to support the industry and our community, and it's been so impressive. So I'm just happy to stand here and support you and your friends. So welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to see so many people, and so many people thinking about their lives and their companies and their businesses in an opportunistic kind of way. Because I feel like we have, for the most part, the industry has gotten past day-to-day panic. And let's just say that's what it was for a long time. I feel like we're starting to navigate things that are happening to us. I feel like we're navigating issues with COVID in our schools in a successful way. Most people are reopened. I know that some people are still struggling with that, and I'm very respectful that that's still an issue with some. But also people are starting to think about how this is a time, any time of change comes with it a time of opportunity. And maybe the opportunity is to reimagine yourself. We just finished a webinar series from our team on reimagine as the theme. And what we want to do is take you back to who you intended to be, what you wanted to accomplish in your company, who you wanted to surround yourself with, where was the energy coming from, who did you want to serve, and see if there are things that you can do right now to reimagine your company into something that's even stronger than it was before March. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some ideas that we're hearing. We have some people who are coming up with some beautiful opportunities. And first of all, Scott went through this really well, but there's my team. I love them. They're fantastic. We try to support the community with webinars that are all business-based. So we focus on business and financial aspects. We do a one-day workshop annually that we're about to host in our first web-based format. It's sold out to appear live, but the recording will be available after August the 7th when we have our live day. If you're interested, that's a one-day financial deep dive into everything that's important. And I'm going to go through a little outline of that today to help you see where to focus on changes that can help you create new opportunities. And then our annual Shift conference that Scott spoke of, and we were so happy to have you there, Scott, is held in February, and we're making that decision as we go. So we'll see what that looks like. We want to support the community this year. Again, with that, what will it look like? We'll do it in the best way that serves you guys. So get plugged into us at hingebrokers.com, and you can see former webinars and future events that are coming up. So before we talk about where the opportunities are, let's talk about what the basic financial picture looks like, because embedded in that are some opportunities. And so I always try to get grounded with what should our school look like if we're successful financially. What should our school look like? And by the way, if you haven't heard me say this before, I do not believe that financial decisions are at odds with quality programming supporting your staff and children. I believe that financial concepts are necessary for you to do the mission you got here for. You need those financial resources to spend money and collect money in a responsible way so that you can provide what it was that you always intended to provide. So I'm your advocate for being as financially healthy as possible. I don't think you serve anyone well if you're awake in the middle of the night, worried about the payroll and the rent. Look, we're all worried about that right now, right? But hopefully that's temporary and you can set yourself up on better footing for the future. So I believe that you have to do that and not apologize for it to do the mission that you got here for. So the basis of our financial model got started so I'm 34 years in the industry now. I spent about 18 years operating a company that we grew from 5 to 150 schools over those 18 years. And it was a blast. We learned so much. We developed models for acquisition. One of my happiest days ever was when we got together with other large organizations across the country and we shared our financial statements. This made the accountant and me very, very happy. So what I put together was a model, and what I found out was that most people, if they were financially healthy, collected money and spent money almost identically. We love predictability. So I developed what was the financially healthy model. And over time, very little has changed about that model. The two things that have changed in the past up until COVID were that marketing costs got less expensive over the 30 years, where we used to do print, copy, and billboards and radio. We moved to social media marketing, which is much less expensive. And almost identical to that saving, our employee pay and benefits went up as it got more important to support our teams and to balance the difficulty in hiring. So what I love about that, now today, maybe some of it will change in the future, but I need to see evidence of that to tell you it should change. But let's talk through some of those things. First of all, what does the model look like? I believe that when you're 70 to 90% full, most people will break even around 50 to 60% full, but I think you need to be about 70% full to put a healthy bottom line on your financial statement and have the cash resources to invest in your company and in yourself. We know that above that, almost every tuition dollar flows straight to the bottom line because mainly your expenses are in place. Maybe you need a little more food, you need a little more supplies, but that's when you do really well. Well, we know that almost nobody is at that level right now. I do know some, so let me just say that it is possible in this environment in certain places, and I think it's, don't beat yourself up if you're not there, because it's very specific to the state, what's happening with COVID, what you're allowed to do with group sizes. So to be in that range again, most people believe will be somewhere between September and January of this year. But we are seeing evidence of it, so know that it's possible. With that kind of revenue, and in a normal environment, so let me keep saying normal environment, then we'll talk about the shift. We want you to operate staff cost, everything that it costs you to keep staff, their salaries, their benefits, their perks, their background checks, everything that staff costs you will average 50 to 55% of your income. Operating costs such as vehicles, food, supplies are another 11 to 13%. Most people have to pay a fair market rent to operate in the facility they're in, or they have a mortgage. Some people don't. You may be in a situation where you have a building that's donated by a university or a church, and that's fantastic. Some people will use that part of their budget to spend in other areas or to reduce their tuition. So just know that this is an average financially healthy school. Will spend 20 to 25% for rent, utilities, maintenance, insurance, property taxes, all those good things that it costs to be in the building. Then there are always administrative costs like office supplies and fees for credit card charges and things like that. So in this range, in a normal environment, we like for you to put 15 to 30% on the bottom line, and that's just for reinvestment. So I don't mean that most people are putting that in their pocket. We do want you to, we want you to be rewarded. It's not healthy not to be rewarded for the work that you do. Again, we don't believe that you can do your mission without that. So what does it look like today? So we have already seen, first of all, we're operating an environment where the majority of our clients have new group sizes. They are not able to, even if the demand was there, completely fill their schools again. And also expenses have gone up. And we do believe that there will be a return to normal. It will take some time for our enrollments, but we also see some expenses that for a very long time may be more expensive. So let's talk about some of those and some of the ways that you can balance out some of those. And then what are some of the opportunities that we see coming up to help you get your business back on track or even stronger than it was before? So first of all, when we teach, we like to focus on 5 areas of your financial picture that I always say get you 95% of the way there. So as a person who operated a large company and gave financial statements regularly to directors who are mainly educators, they're not accountants like I am, I'm very mindful of keeping it simple and focusing on the things that make the biggest impact. So if we can focus on 5 things, and of these 5 things, really 2 need to be monitored regularly. The other 3 are things that you can review occasionally and set appropriate policy. So if you look at it that way, if you have 3 of them set well, and those are tuition rates, discounts, and your rent or mortgage, and you deal with your salaries and your second biggest expense, which second biggest variable expense, which is food, then I think these 5 elements get you 95% of the way to financial health. So let's break these down and see where the opportunities and changes might be. So first of all, on your tuition rates, and I know your mind's about to blow and you're thinking, please don't tell me that you want me to do a tuition rate increase. Maybe I do. I don't know. I will say that now is the time to be very, very bold in your tuition rates. It is not the time to act in fear. It's the time to set your tuition rates, excuse me, where they need to be. We saw so many providers after the economic downturn of 2009 and 10 in those couple of years get far, far behind in their tuition rates. And if they skip 2 or 3 years of a tuition rate increase, it's so difficult to catch up in the future. We want you guys to consider what needs to happen this fall. So most people would increase their tuition once a year, and typically in the fall, although some will do it at the beginning of the calendar year, perhaps in the spring. We are encouraging you to really pay attention to where you are and set your tuition rates for the fall at a market rate that covers what you are giving. So many times the benevolent nature of this industry is fabulous, but so many times our clients are providing a service at a higher quality than they are charging people for. That doesn't work in any economic environment. Also, I believe that people hear less than. If you are less than your true competition in your area. So a couple of keywords there: who is true competition, and there may not be any. I love it when I say to a client, who is your competition? And they say, nobody really. So there may be other providers, but are they at your quality level? And do you have your tuition rate set at a rate that reflects what you're doing and also gives the message, we are the area's top providers? So as soon as you, and I'm sure in all good spirit, set your rates lower than others in your area, your potential clients hear less than. So we want you to be bold, and now is the time to set those rates where they need to be set. I personally would rather you serve less children and have a solid tuition rate. And this may be the time that happens. I don't mean to sound disrespectful of parents of young children. I am a parent of parents of young children, and I know the struggle. I'm just your advocate. I'm your advocate because I want you to be here to serve them by providing what you're providing at a market rate. We think that there are some interesting ways to increase your revenue this fall. And this is a little bullet list of some things that I'm hearing. And I just added a couple yesterday. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like someone says something to me every single day when I go, whoa, didn't see that coming, or wow, that could be a real strong opportunity. So here are a few. In the last week, I have heard a tremendous number of our clients adding in 5-year kindergarten for the fall. So 5-year kindergarten was almost the norm for all providers when I got my start 34 years ago, until it became universally available in the public schools as a full-day program. Some states were behind others, but I don't know any that don't provide that now. So most everyone eventually put 5-year kindergarten students in their after-school program. There are so many providers who are now promoting tutoring and a full-day 5K program for the fall, because those students haven't started public school yet. So for them to go into an environment with a teacher that they can depend on 5 days a week and get the instruction and the safety and security they need is very appealing. And this is very new. So I will say, just hearing this over the past week to 10 days, the enrollment numbers I'm hearing are really strong. So I think this is a fabulous idea. I also really like the idea of extra help for after schoolers. We'll get to after schoolers next. So distance learning support, it looks like, most every state is in some state of an announcement of what their learning program and attendance will look like in the fall. It seems like even the ones that have options for distance learning or in-person learning will probably not be largely attending at least when school starts because of COVID numbers. And most of those are based on the percent of positive COVID cases per 100,000 people in the county. So whether the children attend 0 days, 1 day, 2 days, or 5 days a week is largely dependent on the COVID cases in that county. And of course, the hope is that during the fall, we get past the crisis point and those numbers decline and children can attend more regularly. We all know that that's really so unpredictable. I have said from the beginning of this that I have so much respect for you guys, because you have, since March the 1st, continually made decisions without the information you needed to make decisions. And just because the information's not available yet. And some people will guess correctly and some people will not guess correctly. And it doesn't make you a better guesser. I think we just have to go with our gut and make a decision and hope for faster testing and faster vaccinations during this upcoming year. But I think it will be continued. And just my personal opinion, I think we will continue to go through the coming school year with some back and forth and decisions and more decisions and more decisions. So I think we've got a short term to get through here, but where are these opportunities again? So as schools announce distance learning options, there are some districts doing distance learning as a choice. There are some that are doing in-person learning, but I haven't seen any that have committed to, we will be here every day. So I think what this will look like is distance learning choice, where the students are doing distance learning every single day, or on a weekly basis, the children will be told how many days they will go to school that week. So first, on the distance learning support, some of our clients are setting up a classroom style situation with a support person, as each child in that class will need an individual space, individual connectivity, and a device to connect to their school, headphones, maybe microphone, but to be able to listen individually. It will look like about 3 hours a day, it seems like, of actual online teaching. So the rest of the day needs to be supported with help and activities and lunch and rest periods. So some of our clients are gearing up to set a classroom or classrooms up to support children who may be in chosen distance learning situations. Also, e-learning that might be in combination with in-person school learning is a little trickier. So I have not heard this normalized. Be interested in what you guys are thinking. Some people have concerns about some of the schedules where children will go to school Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday because they're coming in and out. They're getting exposed to other things. I have seen a few school districts do Monday and Tuesday for one group, clean on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for the next group. Seems a little more stable. There are clients who are setting up to support this, and they're looking at these opportunities to support families and children with 5-year kindergarten, distance learning, and e-learning and irregular schedules as a way to help build some of the revenue that they've lost in the spring and the summer. This is also a time, I believe, if you haven't already, to consider accepting some subsidy tuition into your program. People feel differently about subsidy, and one of the things that I love that has just been a tremendous market change over the last couple of months is that schools that accept subsidy tuition largely have outperformed private pay tuition, and that's because those government entities had the dollars they continued to pay, whether the families were there or not. Some states have even supported workers as essential workers with extra pay, and not through unemployment, but just through extra pay as essential workers. So if you have not before, think about the main sources of subsidy that come from the federal government. They have been stable and rising throughout the last 30 years of their existence. The first one is the Child Development Block Grant Program. That's what it's called on the federal level. That money flows through to your state and is called something different there. But it's basically families who meet certain income levels and they have their tuition paid for them. Get plugged in. And if you're concerned about culture in your school, it's a legitimate concern. A small amount of subsidy, we don't feel like changes culture. And by small, I mean 30% or less changes culture in a school that's been predominantly private pay. Along with the subsidy tuition, the USDA food program is a fantastic source of revenue. You will qualify around the same amount, around 30%. It's a lot of paperwork, but the amount of money that you will receive will pay for that and then all of your food typically. Then also, we want you to get connected to Head Start. If you really have enrollment issues, Head Start's money is pretty secure. We have seen beautiful Head Start collaborations over the last couple of years where your building might be used for a class, you might provide a class for them, but they're a money resource. So get connected, build a relationship with a person in your county that is the grantee for Head Start. The next option is, we have always loved public school after school. What do I mean by that? If your public schools operate after school programs and they operate it themselves, then maybe this is a hard sell. If they outsource that to anyone, a private provider, the Y, the Parks and Rec, you have the ability to bid for that program and provide it on their site. We love this option. And most of our clients do really well when they bid as an academic program. Children are going to need a lot of academic support and a lot of emotional support in the fall. So however you can promote yourself as a stable environment with positive energy, stable teachers, help with academics, you will serve families really well. And I'm sure that you guys will come up with some fabulous ideas I haven't here. And lastly, I think we'll continue to see grants. A lot of our states are already putting grant money out, but I also think we'll see private business do this. So keep your ear open, let your families know that you'd like to be plugged in if their employer announces any type of grant program. Just know that grants have become the last few years more widely available, especially to private childcare companies. So these are some possibilities for you for the fall to think about. One more, just started this morning, didn't have time to get it on here. I have another client who is setting up parent work pods in a certain room of their building for parents who need to work from home, but they can't for some reason, they don't have an appropriate environment. I don't know exactly what these would look like, but I think they would be individual pods that the parent would rent. Maybe too far out for some of you guys, but gotta love the creativity. Okay, next huge opportunity. I get a little preachy about the amount of discounting that we do. We're always going to give some discounts. We're going to have to, and I'm going to tell you where I like them and where I don't. But before COVID, the industry was moving away from some of the discounts, and I want you guys to use this as an opportunity to get your policies in shape and improve your financial picture. So maybe you remove a discount in conjunction with a lesser tuition rate increase. It feels a little bit better, and also it helps get your financial picture stronger for the fall. So staff children are typically discounted. Directors will usually get free childcare, and teachers half-price childcare. We're seeing a real, I don't think you're gonna anytime soon not want to do that. So don't consider removing this. This is the time for us to support our teams better than ever. So the last thing you want them to do is go backwards economically. You will also go backwards economically if they do. So some things I've seen shift, and maybe you push these off to the future, but I'll tell you what they are. Some people now limit free or discounted children to children above toddlers. So no infant and toddler discounts. You're probably losing money in those classes anyway. Some people will limit the number of children that can be discounted by an individual staff to 2. So those are some for the future. Don't go backwards in this one right now, but consider it for the future if there's too much staff discounting. Multiple children in the same family, the industry will typically discount 10%. Sometimes it's on the total, sometimes it's the least expensive tuition rate. I have seen an industry move away from this in the last 2 or 3 years. It's usually in higher demographic groups. I would suggest you know what your competition is doing and consider this one carefully. The next one, I want you to go all out in the fall if you still provide any free days that a family can sign up for, not attend, and not pay. The industry went away from this years and years and years ago. And I heard a great explanation someone gave recently that if you rent an apartment, can you go on vacation and not pay your rent? No, that apartment's there for your use. They can't move someone else in. You're still obligated for it. There's no reason for people not to pay you for days they choose not to attend when your expenses continue. My suggestion to people that have this discounting policy is to remove those in conjunction with a slight tuition rate increase for the fall. So your communication's critical in this, and communication needs to be very strong around any change like this. But explain to parents in writing what's going on, the position you're in, and what you're trying to provide. Go ahead and say to them to meet the cost of rising expenses, which we're going to talk about next. We need to go up, I'm making up stuff, $20 a week. Instead, we will support you with a $10 a week tuition rate increase, but we need to remove free or vacation days. That's a good way to do it. The fourth potential discount is industry. So some companies discount specific industries that send their families, or their families come to you as clients. My rule of thumb on this one is I like it, but I want them to be providing something for you, or else the parents would have just come to you anyway. So rule of thumb, there's about a 10% discount. What are they doing to support you? Are they promoting you to employees and giving them your information? Can you go in and hold a parenting class? Can they donate services or supplies to you? Something needs to be happening for you to give that discount. And lastly, in some places, providers either choose to or are required to not charge subsidy families the difference between what the subsidy will pay and what your market rate is. So before you jump into subsidy, if that's a consideration, be sure you know what you can do there and be sure that it still works for you financially. So discounting and income strategies are both critical right now. They're beautiful ways to make some policy changes, be very creative about what your parents need. Listen. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but for the first 3 months, all I did was talk on the phone every day. What do you need? What are you doing? What's everybody else doing? What do you need? What's coming up? And my mind was blown every day. Oh, didn't see that. How can I help support you? Could we do this? So listening is critical right now. So let's talk about the flip side of that. So to the first two of the fives, your tuition rates and your discounts, really important. So salary strategies, I wish I had a beautiful answer for you on this one. I will just say that this is the toughest thing that we are dealing with right now. Costs have definitely risen. You have probably had to add team members. That perhaps there's a person that receives children outside now, brings them into the building. Perhaps there are extra cleaning team members. You've probably had to keep your teachers in classrooms longer without breaks and other teachers coming in that may have forced you to cut your hours a bit. This is the hardest juggle right now. And I think we're going to continue to deal with that creatively just by creating social pods, if you will, within a classroom and trying to keep the teacher and the group as contained as possible to limit exposure. This will increase your cost. So this is the first thing. Your costs will increase here, and it will necessitate some of the first things we talked about, creative ways to support new programs and to really shore up your tuition rates and discounts. We want you to still be here after this. It breaks my heart when I get the phone call from someone that they're in trouble and they need help. I don't want you to be in trouble and need help. I want you to work your way through this and call me when you're doing the best you can. And if it's your desire to do something different in your life, I want you to go out on top. So do what you need to do, make the hard choices now. So second biggest expense beyond staff cost are real estate, or most people's real estate cost, which would consist of either a mortgage to a bank or rent to a landlord. I hope that you very early on paid attention to the wealth of information that came out about what to do in the short run. It's not too late if you haven't acted on one of these two things. So if you don't have a rent or a mortgage, I'm so happy for you. That's not the reality for most people. So most people early on ask their landlord for a rent concession. It mostly looked like something like this. We would like to not pay you rent for the next 4 months. And most of this happened back in March. In exchange, we will amortize those 4 months of rent over the rest of the lease term, or we'll add 4 months to the end of the lease term. Some people did, we will pay half from now until December, and then we will add that to the end or amortize it over the course of the loan. I suggest you offer this now, if you haven't already, to help with your financial picture. I own a couple of childcare buildings that I lease to providers. I got the call, we don't want to pay you rent for the next 4 months. And first I went, dang. And then I thought, well, good for you. I want you to keep paying me rent and not go dark. So I'm glad you're doing what you have to do. I just called my bank and said, hey, I need to not pay the mortgage, which comes up with the next one, for the next couple of months. And they said, yeah, we've already thought it. We'll give you 3 months mortgage free. So it didn't actually equal out, but I want to have a tenant in my building. So go to your bank, go to your landlord, tell them you have a short-term cash need. Don't be afraid to do this. They understand everyone is having this issue. And I promise you, they do not want your building back empty. So that is a thing to do immediately if you haven't. And then we have our next biggest expense, food costs. So food will cost, if you provide 2 snacks and lunch, food will cost most people 5 to 6% of their income. what I'm suggesting to people is there's been a real trend across the country for parents to bring food, and this cuts your food costs down to juice and snacks, maybe 1 to 2%. And that 4 or 5% you could reallocate to more team members, to additional pay, is invaluable. So ask parents to bring lunch. Do you keep doing it forever? I don't know. But in the short run, you can promote it as we need to shift this expense to more staff and more cleaning, and also is safer. So you bring the lunch, your child will have it self-contained from home. And I think this is a really easy short-term fix. Lastly, there are a couple of other little tips I have. Another real market shift is to go to auto draft payments. So instead of taking cash or checks, which most people stopped a long time ago, there are still schools who need to accept cash. Let me be respectful of that. There are families who only have cash and obviously take whatever form of payment that your parents can pay you. But there are a lot of schools who have moved themselves to automatic drafts. It costs more money, but it cuts down on your personnel, and I think saves you money in the long run. So if you have a demographic group that can handle automatic draft payments, start that in the fall. Set a date, make it mandatory, maybe even move to monthly if you're weekly tuition. Just collect it less often and faster. So those are fantastic small tweaks you can make to shift the cost of that personnel of collecting the money to doing other things. Look at new marketing strategies. If you haven't already, get yourself up to speed with more modern, less expensive contact with potential parents. And there's some fabulous content there. Molly Petchel on my team is excellent at that. And there's some content on our website. I'm sure there are others. There's great information about how to put those programs in place. And then lastly, you should regularly bid out your supplies and services anyway. Supplies being food, classroom supplies, paper goods, services being lawn care, IT support. If you haven't done that in a long time, and I'm one that's guilty of this, so I took this opportunity when this started to go back and look at all of the supply and services that the HINGE team works with and go back to those vendors and discuss it and see if there's a change we can make and if we're being as responsible as possible on our cost structure. So now's the time to do that. I know you need one more thing to do. Now is the time. Delegate that one. So a lot of people have used their teams who might still be furloughed. I'm sorry, you can't work them if they're furloughed. If they're still on PPP money, or you just don't have 100% re-engagement for them in the classroom, is there a person who can help you with marketing strategies? Is there a person who would love to look at your supply and service vendors and see if they can help there? I bet there's someone in your building that would find that really interesting. So Scott, that's my best ideas for the day, and I'm sure they'll keep popping in as we talk to people, but happy to answer any questions or have another conversation with you.
Hey, Kathy, just more on the real estate strategy on going to your landlord and not paying the mortgage. Let's say your childcare buildings that you own, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm done, I'm out of the business, top of your head or top of mind, how long are you thinking it takes you to fill out and get a new tenant for that building?
Yeah, really good question. We're already starting to see some of that, Scott. So we know that providers across the country, we're seeing this already in some of the national providers, will make decisions now not to reopen certain schools that maybe they were underperformers before COVID and it makes them too risky now. Or unfortunately, we're already hearing about people who in someone's market has announced that they won't reopen. So really sad situation. We work with people to help them find a replacement tenant if We have a resource, so sometimes we will have a more local resource and help put someone in there. A lot of times the local competition is a great resource, and I'm saying to people, if you hear someone else is not reopening, go to them and offer help. Can you help transition their parents, their children, and their team into your building? Is it smart for you to consider assuming their lease? But it can take a while, Scott, and some buildings might not be as desirable as others. So that does put people in a real difficult situation, minimum a couple of months. And that's if you have an interested party. If you don't, it could be much longer.
Yeah, I know in my real estate dealings, and I know your team is full of real estate professionals, but just terms and conditions can be a 30-day process, just red lines and options and just negotiation can be 30 days. So I think 60 days, if you went from zero tenant to new tenant in 60 days, you've done something really well, or you've had like very favorable occupancy or utilization factors in your favor.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just the 60 days would be a minimum amount of time just to find someone. There should be a lease already in place that would be a good starting point to negotiate with. Lease terms are typically, for most people, the tenant will provide the rent, the maintenance, the insurance, and property taxes. Some people negotiate that so that the landlord pays part of that. So that's another good negotiation in a time like this. If the landlord doesn't want to go down on the rent, would they consider paying the property taxes from now on? So that, or part of the maintenance or something like that. But I agree with you, 60 days would be a minimum.
Yeah. Okay, we got a question here. What are some suggestions to gather current needs from families? Examples, SurveyMonkey, personal calls to each. What has been most effective? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I really love our clients who are having their lead team members reach out and just speak individually with people. So we've lost a little communication link since parents are not coming in and out of the building every day. So it's really more important now than ever to find that communication link. And I love it when the senior team members have a regular call schedule. If you have 50 families in your building, maybe you do 10 a day, and you reach out and you assess their attendance for the next week, and you also get their thoughts on what their needs are. Beyond that, I like a simple SurveyMonkey or whatever resources are out there. Nobody has time to write you a novel right now, but if they can answer a couple of key questions electronically, then that's another good way to gather information.
Kathy, we did some what we call attention graph testing. So when we were building our platform, we learned very quickly that, first of all, people circa 2015, 2016, when everybody had transitioned away from their flip phones onto a smartphone platform, everybody had this kind of like fatigue. And then we realized there was something that we needed to understand called the attention graph. So for us, the top most unpolluted communication modality with the clearest, that ranks the highest on the attention graph, is a text message. For whatever reason, our testing showed that you could send out a text message and you would get a response 95% of the time within 5 minutes. So for whatever reason, that attention graph, the way that we are all programmed to interact with our mobile devices, our emails, electronic digital communication, text is really good. The second modality was push notifications. So we have an app and we loved hearing that. Like, people are going to see that big obnoxious kangaroo time alert come across for your parents and your staff. And they're going to look at it within 20 minutes about 85% of the time. So if it's any sort of a like direction or push in the right way, text is great. By the way, for that reason, when COVID went down, when we started this time, we implemented free texting into our platform. So text is super efficient. Should centers be more concerned about increasing the infrastructure to support confidentiality of data and storage of data? If so, what suggestions do you have? I'll let you go first on this one.
I think that's all you, Scott.
Yeah, so we've really focused on so there have been some shifts, right? You know, my first company was an electronic medical records company. So everything you did within the software, every interaction, there was this overhead of treating it with, you know, treating patient health information the right way. Within our office, we had situations, one of our people did not feel comfortable disclosing that they had COVID. They felt embarrassed. And I think there's been somewhat of a reset. Should you be more concerned today? Yes, absolutely. You're collecting much more information. So as you collect information, you're collecting temperatures from staff, possibly. You're collecting information about more information at check-in and check-out. The framework that you use, you need to be assured that you fall within HIPAA compliance. So if you have medical information on a child, please treat that with as much respect as you can. It is a little bit fuzzy, right, guys? Because you know, push the rewind button and 6 months ago, would you have ever thought of asking to take an employee's temperature? No, hell no. So it's very different. I think we're all operating on kind of like the rules of the new normal. Do I want to wear a mask when I go to the store? No. Do I want to make this a political conversation? Absolutely not. But it's best practice, right? And it's all about keeping other people safe. So the answer is clear as mud, I'm sure. Sorry to be discursive, but absolutely, you need to be more concerned about what you do with personal health information and any information you're collecting. And then there's the concept of contact tracing. Like in our software, we've made it a staple so that so you as a center can understand if a child was diagnosed yesterday and they were in your center the day before, we need to be able to immediately tell you who was in a room with that child, who was for the past 20 days or however long, for the past, you know, the previous 5 days. So be thinking about tools like that need to be implemented just so that you're effectively responsible and a steward to the lives that you're serving inside your center. Does that make sense?
It certainly makes sense to me, and you have just told me some great information that I will share forward. So thank you for that.
Genevieve, any other questions as we close up?
Yeah, we have one last question. I think we have a couple more minutes to be able to cover this. Maria is asking if providing support for school age, are centers providing computers?
So I'm hearing from most people that they are requiring that the device come with the child. So I already see a couple holes in this. The logic is that many school districts already provide the device. A lot of children have individual access to Chromebooks. Some schools don't, though public schools don't. And I think that we're going to have to consider this carefully for certain groups of families that don't have the economic means for that. And I would love to see some financial support come from somewhere. I know that there were internet vendors who were very happy to help families install internet. So I'm hoping that we will continue to see, and people will begin to ask providers of connectivity devices and internet to step up and make a contribution to that. But so far, what I've heard from people is that they'll require that the child come in with their own device.
Yeah, and Kathy, just to add to that, we're working on, for when a center onboards with Kangaroo Time, they'll typically have to purchase anywhere between 8 and 20 tablets for their center. And those things are almost disposable, like the 5 years we've been in business, we've nearly shied away from suggesting the hardware because it ages so freaking fast. But don't be afraid to reach out to us. Not by choice, but we've done quite a bit of research on what hardware is good and enduring and things to look for. So if you do have a scenario where you have to purchase hardware to extend your delivery model, let us know if we can help. We do help customers buy a lot of capital equipment.
I may pick your brain more on that too, Scott, because I think that we will, over the next few weeks, continue to hear that from providers as they gear up. So thank you for that.
Kathy, as always, I am so impressed with the content that you bring to the table. Again, the love that you and your team show the folks in our industry. The enduring content, again, the following, the network of people you had. I saw Alita's on here. I saw a few folks that I met at your show. We really appreciate you, the content that you've brought us, and also that network that you're building. And that network is just full of just like a wonderful people and the best of intentions. So thank you so much for being here.
We do feel pretty blessed, and that's a big compliment. Thank you for having me, Scott, and thank you to all of your guests for plugging in. I know that you've been hit with a lot of information, and we're happy to support you guys however we can. So I hope everybody stays safe and be well.
Thanks, everybody. And we will get you certificates. Genevieve will get them to you sometime tomorrow. The video replay will come in that email. But again, thanks, everybody. Please reach out, stay safe, stay healthy, and let us know if we can help you. Take care, guys.